Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I welcome each of you to this presentation. With me are my colleagues.
Dominic Nyoni.
And myself, President Miranda. I'll take you through the first part. Okay, our outline for this presentation shall follow as indicated there, and we proceed as follows. The task that we're given, ourselves as a group decided to analyze the financial performance for Illovo Sugar Company Malawi Limited. Illovo Sugar Company was established in 1965 and is part of the associated British food group of companies and is the biggest producer of sugar in Malawi. Basically, we go straight. Our analysis of the financial performance critically looks critically at the skeleton of the actual assignment, which is well covered in the report. So the first part that we're looking at the financial profitability performance analysis. To this end, what we looked at, we started with the return on capital. We started with the return on capital employed. So the return on capital employed, basically from our workings, we find out that in 2019, we had a ROS of 18.31%, which was offset in 2020 by a drastic reduction of minus 20.25. Basically, the reduction, the decline in loss was a result of the heavy loss which the company suffered. And in principle, basically, the significant reduction in this capital employed was basically also due to the decrease in the total assets against the increase in borrowing. And eventually this one was actually worked out where we had to look at operating profit versus the capital employed as we express those as a percentage. Another element that we looked at was on the net ratio or the net profit ratio. This net profit ratio, we calculated it using the operating profit against the total sales revenue and expressed as a percentage. To this end, our calculations, we also, we calculated that we found 9.64% in 2019 against a minus 7.12% in 2020. Basically, from a glance, we concluded that the company had efficiently converted sales into profit better in 2019 as opposed to 2020. However, despite the decrease, despite the increase in sales, there was a poor, the group noted that there was poor control of expenses. For example, the distribution cost. The distribution cost, as well as the administrative cost, the expenses in 2020 were 24.3 billion against 19.51 billion. So that explains how actually we had to reach at the negative value. Now I want to invite my friend to proceed from where I have paused. Dominic.
Without taking much of your time, I'll just proceed with the solvency analysis, which is also known as the liquidity. As you can see there, in 2019, it was 0.96 compared to 2020, which was 8.3. Again, we look at the current the quick ratio, which is the acid test in other words, which also was showing some decrease. In 2019, it was 5.1, 0.51, compared to 2020, which was 0.40. So, as you know, current ratio, we look at the current assets divided by the current liability. So this current ratio is showing how the extent to which the company is converting those assets into liquidity. So according to ACA and the ICAM, it shows that for the company to be healthy, it has to be having a ratio of 2.1. So as you can see here, both the ratios, they are below 1, which means the company was not good at both the years, that is 2019 and 2020. When you look at the acid ratio, both in the years, it shows that they are also below 1. So it shows that the company struggle to convert the assets into cash very quickly. As I've explained, it has to be a ratio of 1:1 or 2:1. When we look at the gearing ratio is a long-term loan plus the preference shares, or divided by equity plus reserves. So as you can see here, there is 66.91 in 2019 and 85.65 in 2020. The company, it indicates that the company will struggle to pay the interest charge. As I was explaining, that the gearing is about the long-term loans plus the preference shares divided by equity plus the reserves. So as the shareholder invest, they are expecting something in return. Sometimes you invest by borrowing money, which you are supposed to pay at an interest. So if the gearing is less than 100%, it means the company will fail. As you can see there, the company can borrow, but paying the interest, it will have some struggles. The low gearing affects the value of earnings. To wasting money in the company, they are expecting something in return. So if you have 100% or more, it means company will pay that loan and they will pay also an interest. For example, if you borrow 100 million, they are supposed to pay 100 plus if that an interest. So 100% plus, it means you are paying the initial which you borrowed plus an interest. So the company will struggle very much here because of low gearing ratio. There's also an interest cover, which is the operating profit divided by interest payables. So the company interest cover is extremely low, implying that the company will struggle to meet its interest due. As you can see here, despite there is an improvement from negative 1.87 to 2.76, but the value are low. Very low interest cover would affect the effort to borrow extra funds, because when you borrow, you have to cover that borrowing plus the interest. So the law will affect the company to pay. Okay, at this time I'll invite Theodora to continue and take you on working capital relations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dominic. I'll take you through the working capital ratios We'll start with the accounts receivables days. Account receivable days, in 2019, it showed that Illovo got 67 days, and in 2020, they had 95 days, which shows that in 2019, the company was calculated using average inventory versus cost of sales times 365 days. And next, we looked on the accounts payables, whereby in 2020, it showed that they had 140 days, while in 2019, they had 195 days. Cash flow better than in 2020, which may lead them to earn more interest, though the company was under pressure. As you are all aware, when we are not paying our suppliers, they always make noise. So it took about 193 days in 2019 for Illovo to pay their suppliers. So they were under pressure. And that one, accounts payables, is being calculated by trade payables over cost of sales times 365. I'll also take you through on the efficiency ratios analysis. As you can see here, in 2020, they had fixed asset turnover of 1.96, and in 2019 they had fixed turnover of 1.5. This is calculated by total sales revenue over fixed assets at net book value. This one, it shows that in 2020 the company managed its fixed assets efficiency compared to 2019, which increased the sales since they invested in fixed assets. This one shows that the investments in fixed assets, they help the company to generate more sales. And also on the efficiency ratios, we worked on the working capital turnover, whereby we calculated it using total sales revenue over working capital. In 2020, it also shows that the company was able to pay debt in a set period and manage its operations efficiently, because in 2020 they had 2:84 ratio than 2019, which is 1.9 less than 2020. And I think that's the end of my presentation. Allow me to coach Meme to take you through on investment ratios. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Theodora. I'll take you through the investment ratio, which is also the last ratio that we looked at. On investment ratios, we started looking at the dividend yield. As you can see, in 2019, the dividend yield was much lower. It was 0.024 compared to 2020, which was a bit higher. The dividend yield in 2020 was a bit higher than the ratio in 2019. The fall in the share price per share between the years shows that the company will experience reduced dividends in coming years. The last investment ratio that we looked at is dividend cover. As you can see, in 2019, it was 5.50 compared to 2020, which was in negative. It was lower, 3.92. This means that the company could pay its dividend in full in 2019 opposed to 2020, where it could only pay previous reserves.
Lastly, as you can see that there was a loss in net profit after tax in 2020. This could scare potential investors who would be invested to invest in the company. Thanks so much for listening. I will now call Crescent to summarize our presentation.
very much, Chimwemwe. Having looked at from the onset, we looked at the profit, the profitability assessment, the efficiency assessment, as well as the investment assessment. We came up with a summary that summarizes as follows. We looked at the company sales. We noted that the company sales had significantly increased over the 2 years. That's the year 2019 going to the year 2020, despite the loss which was incurred in 2020. However, some of the points that we had noted was that COVID-19 had affected its export market due to lockdowns across the leading markets where this sugar is exported. And then it entails that the company had to rely on the local market where it had to induce much of its sales by increasing expenses against the prevailing market conditions. However, we noted that though the company made a loss in 2020, it still remains a profitable venture. It's a profitable venture in such a way that from the just reported financial statement, which has been released last year, last week, it indicated that it has posted the profits. Its profits are lifted from the negative value that we got of minus the negative value or a loss of 5.7 billion to 20.4 billion, representing a 650%. Then we had looked back to see, having looked at this trend and also comparing relatively to studying the trend of the financial reports over the past 10 years, it shows that it's only in 2020 where the Illovo had incurred, made a loss of that significance, making us to conclude that this looks to a lucrative company or a subsidiary with investing. Because we noted that being a subsidiary company, its loss was covered by other subsidiaries. So it would be naive or wrong to generalize that have a loss that it has made would replicate in the future. So we looked at COVID-19 was impacted heavily, and it would be wrong for us. The major limitation that came was that we're comparing the financial statements of a company that has potential at a wrong period of time where it had been injured again much, because it relied much on its export market. So in a nutshell, the Illovo is a venture that will easily attract or will keep on attracting its customer or potential customers, and you could be one of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that wonderful presentation. Just a quick observation on the net profit. Why did it decrease in 2020 as compared to 2019?
Okay, our colleague Dominic will pick up the question. Yes, Dominic?
Okay, there are many issues which led to the decrease in 2020. One of the factors is that the distribution cost. As you are aware, 2019 we had some political instability, COVID, so Illovo struggled to control the expenses, such as the distribution cost and the administration cost. As you look at the financial statement, it is shown that they incurred a lot of cost in distribution and the administration. It was amounting to around 24.9 billion. Thank you.